Let's cover some of the best practice prompting tips for reasoning models. And again, these are always changing. These are 7 tips on how to prompt reasoning models. 1, keep prompts simple and direct. As we mentioned before, we do not need to be using kind of a lot of the, shall we call it, heavy prompt engineering techniques that we do with GPT models. Reasoning models work best with brief, clear instructions. So avoid unnecessary complexity where possible. And again, they're conversational. Have a conversation, work things through. You don't want to prompt and ghost. More interaction will lead to better outputs. Avoid what we call chain of thought prompts. So I mentioned chain of thought before. Some people who aren't technical, may not be familiar with that. So previously, when you were working with the GPT models or the standard models that we're used to, people would prompt things like think step by step or explain your reasoning. Now, for reasoning models, this really should be unnecessary because these models already reason internally, and giving them instructions like that can cause confusion. And if you want to see their reasoning, and all of these models, they will present that to you with every output. If you want to get real clarity in your prompts, use delimiters. Delimiters are like markdown, XML tags, section titles. They just help you make your prompts really clean, separate different parts of your input. Again, I've spoken about delimiters before. I will link a video somewhere so you can look into that. Just really, really good techniques for prompting in general. And what it does is help any model interpret sections correctly. So it understands what's your context, what is your task, and what is any kind of specific notes it needs to know. And number 4, so start with 0-shot prompting, then try few shot if needed. So for those of you not in the know, 0-shot prompting is basically a very simple question answer prompt with no examples. A few shot prompt is a prompt that has usually 1 or 2 examples in there that helps the model, should I say, understand what it is you're looking to get as an output with those examples. So what I would suggest here is begin with prompts that don't include examples, because reasoning models often don't need them. But if your task is really complex and you feel like the model is struggling, add in a few clear input-output examples that align closely with those instructions to help guide the model. And 5, provide specific guidelines. So clearly define any constraints in the task to the model up front. And this ensures, more precise responses. And again, it's just helping you in that conversation to get to the best output. 6, be explicit about your end goal. I always talk about, setting yourself up for success. This is one way to do it. Set your success criteria and encourage the model to iterate. And 7, high-level guidance works best. As we've already covered, reasoning models perform well when given a high-level goal rather than having kind of these micromanaged steps. If you want to get more on these tips and tips in general, many companies have great official documentation. I have linked the OpenAI official documentation to wherever you are viewing this video on YouTube or social media. Lastly, so what is an example of what good looks like? Luckily, the president of OpenAI, Greg Brockman, gave us insight into this by sharing a kind of prompt template, or what he calls an anatomy of a prompt for the O1 model, which is one of the reasoning models from ChatGPT's creator, OpenAI. And you can see here on the screen that the anatomy is pretty straightforward, but very conversational. So we can see at the top, we have the goal. Then we have the return format that we're expecting. Then we're giving those constraints, or what Greg has labeled here as warnings. And then we finish off with that context. So you don't have to do it exactly in that order, but having those elements when you're having conversations with these tools is going to be incredibly helpful. So there you go. That is how to work with AI reasoning models, the differences between reasoning models and what we know today as GPT models, and the best time and place and tasks to use with these models. I hope it's helpful, and I will speak to you in the next one.